saucy pasta, but it's very delicious. Now, before I go any further, I got some shout-outs. Batman ASMR, big shout-out to you, my friend. Fat Chunk TV, a big shout-out to you. And a big shout-out to Louis Garcia. Louis Garcia is a very interesting and talented man, let me tell you. He works for drum workshops, revered drummer. You would find him to be very interesting. He paints drums. Now, I'm going to have a link for this down below so you can see how I made this. Now, one of my subscribers, TG360, asked about my potato soup, how I make potato soup. So I'll get to that later in the video. But speaking of soup, a while ago, a few videos ago, I made a soup video, which was kind of glitchy. And you know, back in the old days when I used to make videos, I would just set my camera up and that was it. I had no editing program. I wasn't running through any kind of, processing, nothing like that. The only beef I had was I couldn't edit without an editing program. And my camera was always on autofocus. It was always going in and out like that. So to disable the autofocus, I had to download an app from Logitech called Logitech Hub. And since I started using that, it's improved the focus, but it's caused a few glitches here and there. Now generally that happens because I'm using an editing program now. I can edit that out. And with that soup video, I was starting to edit some of the little glitches out. And I edited out a couple of them. And then I got called away to kind of wasn't really an emergency, but I had some issues with the garage door that had to be dealt with, which I'll get to in a minute. So I left the video for a couple of days, thinking I'd come back the next day or a couple of days later. So it was a couple of days later before I got back to it. And I remember looking at it, I remember I'd done some editing and there was some glitches, so I was thinking it was finished, so I just uploaded it to YouTube. But there were still some glitches, so my sincerest apologies to them for those glitches. You people expect, you deserve better, you really do. So my sincerest apologies for those glitchy videos. I'm going to do my best not to let that happen again. So getting back to the garage. Those are some nice prawns in there. Wow. So, a few weeks ago, didn't want to get her car out of the garage. She pushed the button, started making this real grinding noise, Normally it just lifts up, no problem. It's a double garage, 2 doors. Started making this squealing noise, and it was awful. Got a lovely Cabernet here. So she called me out there. I went out, pushed the button, it was the same thing, so I thought, oh no. So this is the screw type. There's chain drive and screw type. We have a screw type of garage. So the screw type, you just pull the release on that little carriage that goes back and forth. And we're able to lift the garage door up manually. Now we've done that before, that we're doing it freezes up and stuff like that, so that's what we did. she was able to get her car out, so that was no problem. But the problem was we had to deal with it. So I had no idea what the problem was. So of course the first thing I turned to is Google. I Google things like squealing garage door and stuff like that, keywords. And of course a YouTube video pops up, which is what I wanted. Doesn't matter what kind of an issue you have. There's always somebody out there that made a YouTube video. I remember when Linda and I replaced the liner in the swimming pool about 4 or 5 years ago. It's one of those above ground swimming pools, 24 feet diameter and 4 feet high. But we replaced the liner, and it's really not that hard to do. But thank goodness for YouTube, because I watched about 10 different videos by 10 different people, and they all had different ideas of how to do it, and there was things that I never would have thought of. So thank goodness for that. So anyways, came back to the garage. I went on there. There's a lot of videos on how to fix the garage. Or my main concern at that point was diagnosing the issue. The only problem I have with some people making videos is a lot of times they don't get to the punchline, you know what I mean? You go on there looking for a solution or some help, and they have a big long introduction. Then they go into all this ramble about, well, it's nice to have a garage, it's nice to have a door that opens and closes. Always nice to be able to get your car out and make sure rodents don't get in, raccoons and rats and whatever. Well, that kind of goes without saying. But just tell me how to fix it, that's what I want to know. So anyway, I found a few videos. And they're all very helpful. Like I said, the problem was I had to diagnose the issue. Now, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I don't believe in calling a repairman unless I really have. If it's something that's out of my realm, something that's too much for me to take on, or something that's too dangerous, I'll call somebody that knows what they're doing. I remember back in 1983 when I bought my first house. Our first child was born in 85. And when he was 2 years old, or there, but somewhere between 2 and 3 years old, a couple years later, he stuck a small plant pot down the toilet. Clogged it right up. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, for me now to replace a toilet or a steel is, I can do it blindfolded. But back then, I didn't have the experience to do anything like that. So this was a Sunday, and my ex and I phoned a plumber. Plumber comes up, shuts the water off, disconnects the tank, undoes a couple bolts, lifts the toilet off, cleans it all up, unclogs it, puts a new seal on, puts it down, seats it, and, basically just bolts it down again, connects the water, and he wants $60. No, $60 is not a lot of money. Now I can spend $60 going over there. He said, well, I tell you what, if you give me cash, it's only $40. Well, I can spend $40 going out for lunch. But back then, $40, we're saying 1987, you could feed a family of 3 for a week on $40. So I thought, wow. I watched him, what he did. I thought, never again. since then, I not only learned how to replace toilets, I've actually built bathrooms from the ground up, jackhammering cement, doing all the piping, everything. So I've learned a lot over the years. Getting back to the garage. Anyways, so there are a couple things that I had to deal with. The garage has the motor. It's got this long screw type thing, which is in a long bar, about maybe 10 or 12 feet long. And as that thing moves along the screw, as the motor turns, it moves this thing along called a carriage, and that opens and closes your door. While the carriage moved back and forth fine, but there's something in there called a, what's that called now? Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, embarrassing. Oh well, anyways, it'll come to me. Anyways, it's got these little teeth on it. And that, the teeth are kind of worn away, so it wasn't grabbing onto the screw. Rack, it's called a rack. Anyways, this rack was not grabbing onto the screw. So of course it wasn't moving anything. It was just making a lot of noise. But what I also noticed was that the screw that turns around and the motor that turns it, there's a little coupler that when the motor turns, it has to have something to connect to the screw, and there's a little coupler made out of plastic that was completely broken in half. So I had to replace the little coupler and the rack. Thank goodness for Amazon. I went straight to Amazon and I took pictures of all the parts and needed to make sure I had the right numbers, that sort of thing. Didn't want to get the wrong thing. So the carriage was in good shape. That's the part that moves back and forth. But that's the part that connects to the rack, and the rack is actually what turns everything. Because when the screw turns, that rack moves along. But you can disengage the carriage, which is how you open your garage door manually. So anyway, I ordered those two things. But in order to get that rack out of there, I had to take that whole screw system down. So I loosened all the bolts on the motor so I could, move it, give it some play. It was just a couple of screws and a cotter pin at each end, basically. But I really I'd never done nothing like this before. I thought, can't be that hard. Took everything down. Now, what I had to make sure I did was when the garage malfunctioned, it hadn't completely cycled, it hadn't gone through its cycle, so it was still wanting to close. So I had to make sure the motor had, before I connected anything, I started the motor and let it run till it closed and stopped. That way I knew it was in the closed position. So when I hooked everything back up, I would push the button and it would open. So in order to get the old rack off, I had to twist it by hand and take it off, and then put the new one on and twist it the other way. So, like I said, the Amazon, they sent our pieces, the new rack and the new coupler. Got the new rack on, just twisted and dug up about maybe a couple feet this way, so I could connect it up. Put it up there, put in a couple of screws, and my cotter pin just kind of loose. It was still hanging there. That gave me some play so I could connect the screw mechanism to the motor, and put the little coupler in there. Just connect them, tighten everything up. So it was all ready to go. So before I did anything, I said a little prayer. Those prawns are good. Butter, lemon, Parmesan cheese, garlic. A little bit of chili peppers for heat. Fresh parsley. Oh man, you can't go wrong. So anyway, I said a little prayer. Pushed the button. Door lifted up, but then stopped. And it came down, but not all the way. And I thought, damn. So it lifted up again, and then it went down. Now I remembered when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with this thing in the early stages. There's some screws there where you can adjust it so the garage opens all the way or only opens part way. And I monkeyed around with some of those. So the settings are not where they should be. So I just got my ladder up, went up there and, half a turn here and a quarter of a turn there. So I finally got the garage to come up all the way. But when I went down, it would come down and it would bounce and go back up again. So I just gave another quarter of a turn and came back down and just sat there perfectly. So it was good. So I made sure that, I tested it out several times and it worked really good. Now sitting here, I make it sound like there's nothing to it, but I was scratching my head for the longest time trying to figure all this stuff out, doing a lot of Google. Back in the old days, when I was in my 20s, whatever, obviously we had no Google and whatever. So I'd go up to the library and I would borrow books on how to, those how-to books, how to build a bathroom, how to fix your car. I went to a grad show one time and I got like a whole encyclopedia set. I think it was Popular Mechanics or something. These hardcover books on how to do everything, like you name it. Fix your refrigerator, replace a belt in your washing machine, and you name it. And I used those and they were all very helpful. I remember I had this one book. It was a softcover book. It was about that thick. It was on fixing cars certain years and certain types. And I had my old Nova back then. That book was just covered in greasy fingerprints and everything because I was outside of my car and I'd be monkey wrenching. I'd be looking over and monkey wrenching. It was funny that book, you could tell it had been well used. So, that was the Google of my day. It's a good feeling when you can tackle something and actually fix it. Because I said to Linda, if this doesn't work, we have to call a repairman, which I don't like to do. But like I said, after a lot of Googling and head scratching and tinkering and praying, I got it working. And of course, I was the hero of the day. Linda thought it was just amazing. So anyway, got that all done. So I was very happy for that. Now, DG360 asked me about my potato soup. Now, when I made soup at work, I made huge amounts. We had these great big kettles with a handle on the pull to drain them off, and I made gallons upon gallons of stuff, soup or oatmeal or whatever. It was always huge amounts. So when I make soup at home, it's really hard for me to say, but I would start off by getting a fair-sized pot, and fill about maybe a quarter of the way with potatoes. Rob, just dice the potatoes up real good and just boil them until they're nice and soft. Throw in maybe some onion, half an onion or whatever, depending on how big the pot is. And once that's, and of course add your liquid. I would use chicken stock or just water and put in some powdered chicken stock. But if you've got real chicken stock or that Campbell's chicken stock, that works good too. And just boil it up. Now you can either mash that up so it's If the potatoes are softer, if they're a little bit chunky, that's okay. Or you can put an immersion blender in there and puree it, whatever. Or you can just leave them kind of chunky. But then you want to add your roux, or you can make a whitewash. You know, flour and milk in a blender. Just mix it up and dump it in and thicken it. And once it tastes fairly decent, you know, salt, pepper, garlic, that sort of thing. Then the secret ingredient to my potato soup was bacon grease. Now, that's enough to harden your arteries just thinking about it. But if I had a small pot of soup at home like that, I would probably cook up, I would buy a package of bacon and cook half of it, and all the grease that drained off, and I would cook it till it was crispy. All the grease that drained off, I would dump right into the soup, and that would just mix in once you have your flour in there. It doesn't float on top, it just mixes right in. And because that's a secret ingredient. If you want to dice up some of that crispy bacon, throw it in the very last minute. You don't want to put it in too soon because it'll discolor, but if you want to put it in the last minute, that'll add a lot of flavor too. Prawn tail. Anyway. And you have to add salt and pepper to taste. You know, I find it hard to make small amounts. I really do. Because when it comes to soup, I always make these huge amounts, and I never bothered to scale down the recipes at all. But if you put too many potatoes, then it just gets kind of starchy, just like sort of liquid mashed potatoes. So you just have to kind of figure that out for yourself. But the secret ingredient is the bacon grease and the bacon. And at the last minute, I would throw in some, just before you serve it, throw in some fresh chopped green onion, because it gives a nice crunch to it. And maybe a sprinkle of dill, fresh dill or dehydrated dill. What I used to do at work was before I served it, I would dice up all my onions, put in a big bowl, put in a bunch of dill, mix it all up. I'd take a spoonful, put it on each bowl like that. So you get a spoonful of diced onion with dill mixed in with it. It was an easy way to serve it. It tasted really good. And that bacony flavored potato soup that's nice and creamy. You get the crunch of that green onion, and I had the dill. My co-worker Tony, who I worked with for 36 years, said the two things that would keep him alive. I probably said this before. The two things that would keep him alive were my potato soup and my peanut butter cookies. He loved my potato soup. So anyway, I hope you watch my cooking channel. I have to take my mom out later to get her income tax done. She'll be 97 next month. She made cinnamon buns and beaver tails the other day. And I took my youngest son out for his birthday to my go-to restaurant. I had the veal parmesan with Alfredo noodles. He always has the same thing. He has chicken fingers all the time. He's a chicken finger fanatic. But anyways, after that we stopped by my mom's place and she gave us all her cinnamon buns. Oops, sorry. But it's pretty good that she's on the eve of her 97th birthday and she can still bake, do stuff like that. That pasta's delicious. Wow. Prawn's doing pretty good, so I'll take her out, get her income tax done. And that she'll be happy. She may want to go for a hamburger or something later. She likes going to McDonald's for a hamburger. So we'll see if that works. Red wine and pasta go together so well. Perfect combination. Wow, that's good. So anyways, that was my my story on how I fixed my garage. Well, I'm quite full. Well, my friends, hope you're doing good. And you know, as far as shoutouts are concerned, I don't mind doing shoutouts one bit. Just bear in mind that if I missed you somehow, which I did recently, I somehow, there was a lapse and I missed somebody. They eventually got their shoutout, but if I miss you, don't hesitate to to contact me and or in the comment section, whatever, and say, what about that shout out? And I promise I'll do it. So if I have missed anybody, if I have missed somebody, just let me know. And I don't mind doing them, like I said, but I pre-record my videos ahead of time for a variety of reasons. I am quite busy sometimes for a retired guy, and I do have different things going on. So I'd rather have a few videos uploaded and ready to go than to have to scramble to make one in a hurry, And if I record them ahead of time, it gives me more time to work on them and whatever, rather than being rushed. So anyways, I don't mind doing shoutouts, so just let me know. And I'm starting to keep track of them now too, so when I do a shout out, I keep track of who I shouted out and which video it was. So that way I can, reference that if I have to, because I don't want to miss anybody. And I love your comments. I love hearing from you. I don't care whether positive or negative. I love hearing from you. You guys are amazing. I love you all. Okay, you take care, my friends, and I'll see you next time.